Regular attendance is essential to a strong and active Rotary Club. The emphasis on attendance is traced back to 1922, when Rotary International announced a worldwide attendance contest that motivated thousands of Rotarians to achieve 100% attendance year after year. Many Rotarians take great pride in maintaining their 100% record in their own club or by making up at other Rotary Club meetings. And I think we have a gentleman who is 100%. Is that right, Mr. Buck? So what is the secret to your success? Yay!
He said, if you don't do this, you need to do it all again.
And who is he? Was he a
Richie, it was Ralph Giesecke, banker.
okay, from here in Marble Falls? Awesome.
Richie Giesecke, father.
Nice. Well, you are just, it's hard to keep, it's like that 79-year-old gentleman I went hiking with in the Guadalupe Mountains on Sunday. I'm not worthy, is all I can say.
Michelle, I'm going to read her bio. She worked in the oil and gas business in Houston, exploration, production, and marketing for over 15 years. Her husband retired from the city of Houston as an arson investigator with 24 years of service. She and her family moved to Marble Falls in January of 2000. They have two grown sons who both went through Marble Falls Independent School District. I think both of them are engineers, I heard her say this morning. That's great. Michelle started at Texas Tech in December 2008 as a part-time recruiter. In 2010, she moved into administration for the College of Education. And in 2013, she became an academic advisor. So today, Michelle is going to talk to us about our help, about the help our local school districts are helping out with the teacher shortages in our local school districts. And we're glad to have Michelle this morning. You would come up, Michelle.
Probably should have done this ahead of time, but y'all are ready. Two different documents. I think it's take one of each, and the first one is mine. Yeah, we're uptown here. So I need to, I guess, get in this camera. Hi, everybody in Cyberland. Yes, Houston. I had the added experience of getting stuck in one of those elevators in the tallest building in Houston. And it was in between elevator shafts. And so they had to crank us up 13 floors just to get us out of there. So that was loads of fun. Luckily, I had run downstairs to get a muffin, so I wasn't starving to death while I was waiting. I'm here today to talk to you a little bit. Again, I'm with the College of Education at Texas Tech, and so my job is to be academic advisor for the students who are preparing to be teachers. And if you've watched the news at all in the last few months, you know that nationwide teacher shortage. Every district right now, I have multiple emails from school districts in my inbox. They're looking for teachers mid-year. They have, they're holding job fairs all over the place for anybody who's graduating in December. They don't care that they're a first-year teacher. They don't, you know, they need warm bodies, and it's getting worse. And so kind of just wanted to explore the reasons why. And if you look, I put some numbers there. From 2018 or 2019 to 2020, basically, fewer educators became certified statewide, about 4,000 less. And so right there's a problem. But that problem actually started before COVID. Everybody says it's COVID. It started before COVID because those are people coming out, which means fewer went in. Okay. So the profession is just not generating as many candidates for teaching. And there are multiple reasons. The perception of the profession doesn't have the same respect that it used to. And that's unfortunate. One of the things tech is really big into is professionalism. Teaching our graduates to recognize the importance of what they do. It is a huge responsibility and they need to treat it like that. Salaries, we'll talk about in a minute. Standardized testing has kind of soured a lot of people. And so anyway, there's a lot of reasons why people aren't going into education. The way kids are being raised, not a lot of parenting going on. And so there are a lot of issues. But what is making things worse, COVID did not help things at all, obviously. Teachers took early retirements or just retired. They're concerned about health risks for them, for family members, that they might take it home to if they have an at-risk family member. So there's a lot of risk there. Children are just little germ carriers. Eddie, if you know your Eddie's wife was one of my son's teachers, and they carry germs and they give them to old people, but they never get sick themselves. They just pass them on. Frustrations with the protocols, the cleaning, the masks, everything, I know several teachers who said, I just can't do it. I can't teach wearing a mask. I have to see my children's smiles, a lot of different things. And then finally, the frustration with virtual learning. I honestly don't know how they did it because that is tough. I see the challenges of keeping adults focused on a Zoom meeting. I don't know how you do it with children. And so it's a lot of challenges. And the next page was very eye-opening to me. We have local challenges. If you look on the third page or the third slide, Marble Falls ISD starting teacher salary is under $48,000 a year. And that's a good salary these days. But I also advise students in San Antonio. And if you look, their starting salary is almost $57,000. So it's considerably less. So there's the first challenge is we pay less. You have to be in Marble Falls for 20 years before you hit that first year teacher salary in San Antonio. Okay, so housing costs. This was a real eye opener. I went to realtor.com. I tried to find a reputable website. The median price of an available home right now in San Antonio, and that's those that are on the market. Doesn't matter what you and I paid for our houses 20 years ago, but the ones that are on the market right now in San Antonio, median price is $275. In Marble Falls, the median price is $599. You're not going to be able to buy the average home in Marble Falls on a teacher salary. And so, the challenge is, a lot of school districts will go to these recruiting opportunities statewide and try to get teachers to come here. Well, it's a beautiful place to live, and if they want to live here, that's going to be the reason they come. It's not going to be because of our salaries or our great housing costs. But the challenge is, so how do we overcome these things in Marble Falls? And the number one answer is to grow our own. Okay, so we want people who already live here and have figured out a way to make the housing work. Or, maybe they have a spouse that does have one of the higher paying positions around the city's low on high paying jobs as well. We've got a lot of service jobs, but those are not going to be the ones to support a $200,000 or $250,000 house, right? And so they might have a spouse who's commuting into Austin or somebody who does have one of those higher pays things. But even my husband and I were talking last night, 2 teachers, that's $100,000 a year. That's not a lot if you're going to be, can you get a $200,000 house on $100,000? Absolutely. Much less than that, you're going to be incredibly house poor. In other words, you might be able to afford the house, but you can't afford the lawnmower to mow your yard, or the insurance for your car, or shots for your dog at the vet. So it's very challenging. So, growing our own, people who already are here, it's going to be hard to get, we're not having trouble getting people here, but getting people who want to be teachers is another thing. So growing our own. We have a lot of non-traditional students go through our program. That means they're not the 18-year-olds with mommy and daddy writing checks. These are people who have families, they have homes. A lot of people get to a point in their life, if I had asked you when you were 18 years old, do you want to be a teacher? You'd have turned and fled as fast as you can. And then people have a couple of kids or they retire early and they have thinking about a second career. They're like, yeah, kids don't scare me anymore. I can do this. And so we do have a lot of second career type thing candidates or just non-traditional, moms who have stayed at home and raised their kids and said, I want to go to work now. So what I want to do is tell you a little bit about what we do on the Hill with Tech Teach is the tagline. Tech Teach up until this year was a 1-year intensive fast track. We delivered 2 years of curriculum or 2 years of coursework in 1 year. The student taught the entire year. It was psycho. They put their heads between their legs. They kissed their life goodbye for 1 year, but it was a one and done. And then we're still doing that in the metro areas, San Antonio, Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth. It's our niche. But what we found in the Hill Country is that most of our students need to work at least part-time because of the things I just talked to you about. So we switched the program back to a traditional 2-year program. It's delivered exactly the same way that they're doing it in Lubbock. So 2 years, fall, spring, get your summer off, fall, spring. Okay. And so it's a traditional program now. They get their bachelor's degree and teacher certification. We partner with our local school districts so that we can go in and train the mentor teachers so they know what to do with the students when they're student teaching. They're not just standing in a corner watching somebody teach. That does not prepare them for the real world. So we're very heavily involved in their classroom. Everything is done locally. Students say to me all the time, oh, I can't go to Lubbock. That's 5.5 hours away and it's 6 if you have my bladder. So, yeah, that's a long drive. But everything is done here locally. Our students never, ever, ever have to leave Marble Falls unless they want to go graduate with all of the other tech students because it is a full Texas Tech degree. There's UT San Antonio and UT. They're part of the same system, but they're separately accredited schools. If you go to A&M Corpus, you're not going to get an Aggie ring. Okay, they're 2 different schools. Well, this program that we're delivering here is Texas Tech. If our students want a Texas Tech class ring, they can get a class ring. When they get ready to graduate, they can go walk the stage with all of the other Texas Tech grads. Okay. They do their upper division coursework online, mostly while they're in a classroom. And the thing I absolutely love about this is that they're learning it and using it immediately. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. Again, full tech degree. Texas Tech is a tier 1 research university. There's only, I think, 131 nationwide. It's a great diploma to have hanging on your wall. The certification options we have available here right now are elementary. Okay, so elementary teachers, we have middle level math and middle level language arts. Those are the 3 that we deliver because those are the 3 high needs areas in our school district. Middle school math students. Can you think of anything worse? I mean, seriously, so God bless middle school math teachers. Even language arts. My oldest son, who is a mechanical engineer, he comes home, he's all math and science, and he goes, Mom, do you want to see my poetry notebook? He was in like 6th grade. I was like, of course I do. I was like, what 6th grade teacher got a boy to do a poetry notebook? You were amazing, right? And so anyway, those are the high needs areas. We do have some secondary options coming. Hopefully within the next year or so, maybe 2, but those will be high school. Again, great need as well. With our degrees, they get additional certifications in ESL, English as a second language, and that's a certification. Our training teaches them how to teach those dual language learners, those kids that are still thinking in 2 languages. They speak English, they're taught in English, but they're still thinking in their native language. And it's not always Spanish. We've seen Haitian children adopted, Korean children, and once they learn English, they're ESL students, just like the kids who started with Spanish. So anyway, ESL is critical. Every classroom in the state of Texas will have ESL students in it. They can also get same amount of time, no extra time, their certification in special education, almost becoming critical that every teacher have SPED certification because of the reading disabilities, but more prevalent these days are the behavioral disabilities. the ADD, the ADHD, things like that. So that special ed certification is key. Bilingual, you know, you would think I would not have any trouble recruiting bilingual candidates. But what we find is a lot of people are bilingual, but not biliterate. So they speak the language, but they don't read and write it well enough to pass the certification test. And so, you know, I tell students, if you're bilingual, be working those reading and writing skills as well, because what happens to kids in school is we transition them out of that bilingual classroom and they go into a mainstream classroom as an ESL student after they've switched, but then everything is taught in English. So they might do a year or two as bilingual candidates. So they're not learning all that reading and writing that you learn in third, fourth, fifth, sixth grade and up. So because we've transitioned them out of it. So it's important if students are bilingual to hold on to some of that and try to reinforce it, you know, do a lot of reading. And I tell them, watch Netflix with subtitles, you know, do all kinds of things, documentaries, because academic vocabulary is important. If you're teaching science in Spanish, when was the last time you and your family discussed the parts of a cell or a microorganism at the dinner table? You don't have the vocabulary to teach it. So anyway, and we're just adding a coaching concentration with the middle level, because what I find is a lot of people want to teach middle level or high school and they want to be coaches. And so we're adding a concentration in coaching. I'm going to watch my time. Teach is different than most teacher preparation programs. Clinically intensive is the key feature. Our students do a full year of student teaching. Not just the state's minimum is 14 weeks. We do a full academic year. And the reason we do that, our late dean, when he set this program up, if you student teach in the fall, you don't see STAR testing that goes on in the spring. You get a job as a fifth grade teacher, they got to pass 3 STAR tests and you've never even seen it done. And you've got a gun to your head and your job relies on it. If you student teach in the spring, all those mentor teachers are getting ready for what? STAR testing. So students who just student teach in the spring very often are not given the classroom a lot to teach because their mentor is busy preparing for state testing. So if they do the full academic year with a mentor teacher, they get to see benchmark testing in the fall. They get to see what happens when a teacher does benchmark tests and a kid is 3 grade levels behind on reading. How does that teacher get that child ready for that state test? And so our student teachers get to work with them for the entire academic year to see how everything plays out. And so it's really, really good. Lots and lots and lots of real life experience. During their junior year, they're in the classroom 1 day a week. During their senior year, they're in the classroom 4 days a week. Lots of classroom time. So quite frankly, we cannot teach that classroom time from a book. Right? And they get to see 3 different mentor teachers, 3 different grades while they're in Texas Tech. So it's very, very beneficial. The co-teaching model is one of the things I love. Because we're partnered with our school district, the people who sign up and agree to be a mentor teacher, they have to want it. We just don't dump our students on them. They get trained what to do with that student in the classroom, because that's the problem. A good teacher has trouble letting somebody else teach their kids and just kind of stepping back because they're not going to be perfect. And so we train that mentor teacher. Okay, we need them doing this. Now we need them doing this. Or a student might not be a lead teacher today, so they're doing a small group in the back. Or they're doing station teaching where they're moving around the classroom. So our students are getting a lot of real life experience. The thing that I love, coursework connected to the clinical work. Again, they're taking online classes at night when they go home. And the nice thing about this is back in the day, student teaching was all done at the end. I have a sister who triple majored in education, middle school ed, elementary ed, and physical education, got to student teaching and hated it. Never became a teacher. So there's a very, very, very wasted amount of time in college. And so first of all, our students get to experience it right away. But what I love is they're learning stuff in their online classes and they're in a classroom the next day and they get to try it out. Because if you just teach it, it's only theory. We have to have the application. You know, it's like going to church and not using anything of what you learn, right? And so, but you're doing it at the same time. And these online classes will have assignments that you have to teach. So if you're taking a class called Teaching Science, we're teaching you how to teach science. You're going to teach a science lesson. You're going to video it and you're going to upload it to that instructor so they can see that what they're teaching is relevant in the real world. And this is one of the things universities used to, we're guilty as the rest, have this disconnect with the real world. As our late dean put it, we sat in our ivory tower and we taught you what we thought you needed to know. And what happened was he started talking to school districts and finding out our students weren't, our graduates weren't prepared for the real world, because the instructors at universities sometimes have been sitting on those university campuses for 20 or 30 years. They have not been in an elementary classroom in 20 or 30 years because they've been working at the university. And so they were completely out of touch. Well, with these partnerships now and with these videos, that instructor gets to see that what they're teaching really is working. So it holds us accountable as well, that we're in tune with it. And we meet with Marble Falls ISD 3 times a year to discuss, okay, what do we need to be doing better? Because our goal is to develop teachers to be ready to walk into that classroom and be great teachers on day one, not after a year of experience, right? So I put the admission requirements there. They do their first 2 years, we're partnered with Central Texas College in our building. They do 2 years, do all the core classes, the basic classes there, transfer to us, and then our program is the final 2 years. We need a B- average. Nobody wants C teachers for their kids, right? And the hours, that's my job. They have to have foreign language, which they generally do these days in high school, so that gets done. What I want to finish with is the money. Everybody knows that college is expensive, right? I'll be honest with you, our target audience here is the Hispanic girls being raised in this community because they love their families. They want to stay here. Very often they're bilingual. And, but if you go into one of those homes and you start talking college, they're not talking college. And those are our exact demographics that we want. We want people that already know our community, love our community, know the culture of our community, and know what it's like to be a kid. And we have a lot of graduates who came right through this district, and that's our goal. So if you go to Central Texas College for 2 years, it's about $8,000 total. 2 years of college for $8,000. Texas Tech, the Tech Teach program, the 2 years with us is about $20,000. Okay, so total you're looking about $28,000. And then on the next page, to put that in perspective, if you packed your kids' bags and moved them to Lubbock for 1 year and put them in a dorm and did all the meal plan and the housing and the transportation costs of going back and forth and books, it's about $25,000 per year. $100,000 for a degree versus $28,000. That's huge. Almost a fourth of the cost. And these exact demographics, if they get the Pell Grant, that's going to be, we didn't qualify for it, but I mean, even if I had to borrow every dime, $28,000, that's the price of a car these days. Not even a top-notch car. So, and it's a car you're going to drive for 5 years and get rid of, whereas this is a career that you're talking about for $30,000, less than $30,000. If they get the Pell Grant, that's upward to about $65,000 a year. So boom, that's $13,000 of the $20,000 that's going to be paid right out of the chute. Now you're borrowing a car for $7,000. That's an affordable education. If they make good grades at Central Texas College, they have a 3.0 and they get that Pell Grant, we're going to give them $6,000. Okay, now they have a $1,000 car. If they have a 3.5, we're going to give them $8,000. And y'all, those two are guaranteed. They don't even have to write an essay to get those. They're guaranteed. They're not competitive. Everybody who meets those requirements gets that money. Everyone. So boom, you make good grades, you have a free education. But even if you don't qualify for like the Pell Grant, even my poor husband and I was like, I wanted to phone the government and say, wait a minute, have you looked at my checkbook? You know, There's the Teach Grant. It's $4,000 a year. They have to have a 3.25 GPA, so a solid student. But they're making a contractual agreement with the government that they'll teach for 4 out of 7 years in a high needs or lower socioeconomic area. We are lower socioeconomic, bilingual, special ed, or high needs. So it's all good. We have a competitive scholarship for $3,000. There's a Charles Butt, Raise Your Hand Texas scholarship for $8,000 a year. One of my Fredericksburg students got that this year. And then those transfer scholarships, we also have something called the Red Raider Guarantee. If the family income is below $65,000 a year, we're going to pay for everything. So basically, they're going to get the Pell Grant that's going to pay this much. They can also get money for being first generation Hispanic. So what's going to happen is all those things are going to kick in, and whatever's left out of, the students taking 15 hours, we have grant money that'll fill in the gap. So basically, if your family income is below 65,000, we're going to make sure that if you take 15 hours, it's fully paid for. Free education. It's big, y'all. And people sit there in their houses and make excuses. I can't go to college. So the reason I'm here is to let you know that if you encounter these people in the community, those of Leo, I heard you were involved in CASA. If you have CASA kids that think they can't go to college, they can go to college. As long as they're willing to sacrifice that traditional experience of packing a bag and living in a dorm. Yes.
My oldest daughter is going to be doing this. Hopefully she'll be starting in the spring. She was kind of burned out on school because of, she was a senior last year.
Mhm.
She graduated in 01, so, or 21. So that's where she's at right now is, can she start this in the spring semester? Or
We started every fall. We start every fall.
Okay.
So, and they have to have their Associate of Arts in Teaching degree from CTC. So I need that associate's degree in all the classes
Okay, so she
associated
can
with.
start that in the spring, right?
Oh, that CTC can be started anytime.
Okay, so she
And-
wanted to take the fall semester off just to chill for a little while.
Yeah, don't let her do any more than the fall semester. I had a guy come to my office crying. Literally, a grown man standing in the foyer crying. He goes, I was just going to take a year off of high school, and now it's been 15 years, and I have a wife and 3 kids, and I'm stuck in a dead-end job, and I'm so disappointed with myself. And so,
She's going to go back.
Yeah,
She-
yeah,
we
just kick
agreed-
her in the rear, get her
we agreed
going.
to that.
Yes. A bachelor's degree in unrelated field. That's a great question. For example, I have a finance degree. If I wanted to become a teacher tomorrow, I would do an alternative certification program. They are statewide. You do a semester of what they call pedagogy classes, the how to teach classes, and then you go into an internship and you become a teacher.
And that's not your program.
That's, no, we don't offer alt cert, but they're offered statewide, and I'll be happy to lead anybody to. No, you don't have to do a second bachelor's degree. They're not like masters. You don't collect bachelor's degrees. So they're just, there's alt cert programs to get you certified.
Any other questions? Awesome, great.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you so